Saturday, Saturday, do what you want on Saturday. Watch cartoons, ride your bike, eat whatever the heck you like. Hey there, we live for Saturday. Good morning, friends and foes. Good morning, multiverse. This is Back of the Cereal Box, the pop culture podcast that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays of our youth. And I am your host, the prophet of pop culture, John Pyka, but you can call me Johnny Beyond if you dare. And this morning, we've got a very special guest joining us to talk about the very first story arc of the 1984 animated series from Marvel and Sunbow, Transformers, More Than Meets the Eye. And we are going to welcome my co-hosts into the rec room to help me. First up is our emotional support Canadian, all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. She is the Peppermint Princess and a fan of all things geek. And I think she has an affinity for the Transformers. It's Willow Skylor.
Oh, you bet I do.
I knew you did. I knew you did.
I do have an Optimus Prime, but he's kind of stowed away in my cabinet right now.
All right. And also joining us, your wife's favorite redhead. She is an exceptional cosplayer, artist, and fan of all things comic book and geek. She is the one, the only Aubrey Cavitt. Good morning, Aubrey.
Morning, and cereal boxers, Johnny and Willow.
Morning.
And we have a very special surprise guest this morning. He is probably the leading expert on Transformers in my circle of geekdom. And I would dare say that he could probably rival most people you know who were not involved in the actual production. He is the one, the only, the infamous Lucas Leveratt. Good morning, Lucas.
Hello.
Morning.
It's so much easier to do this when I live in Eastern time. It's no longer, oh my God, it's 8. So for me, it's 9. It's way easier to deal with.
Well, I hate your guts right now. Lucas is coming to us from the frozen tundra of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
A little bit. It's one of the few times I think you and I have ever been on any live video stream at the same time where we both have similar weather.
Yeah. Well, so it rained a fine mist yesterday.
Oh.
And so the snow is covered with ice. Perfect sled riding weather.
Now you know how it feels to live in my city.
Well, listen, I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and this was just par for the course for 4 months. Mm-hmm. So, but in Nashville, Tennessee, 8 inches shut us down.
Apocalyptic.
Yeah. There are still stores that are not open. And it's been 5 days, Willow.
Johnny's not wrong. 5 inches in my front yard.
I've been bugging him pretty much all week about him complaining about snow. And I'm just like, oh that's so cute.
No. No, I'm not complaining about the snow.
You're showing off.
I complain that nobody here can handle it. Nobody here can deal with it. And so everything gets shut down. So I experience extreme cabin fever because I'm like, it's 8 inches of snow. What?
You could just blow it away.
Yes. In when I was growing up, Aubrey, we dealt in feet, not inches.
Right.
Feet.
Me too. Massachusetts.
Yeah. So
okay, we make
school in 8 inches of snow with my boots, hoping the snow didn't get in the top of your boots, and we still walked.
Yeah.
So
we make fun of Toronto all the time because they close down their province every time, or like Ontario. As soon as they get a little bit of snow, it's like, oh no, we have to close up. No school tomorrow. It's like, oh, that's cute. You guys think that's a snowstorm.
I like living where they can handle it. I have always, I was Southern born and raised, but I never understood why the South couldn't figure it out.
Well, it's because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, but it ain't rocket science. Now, I was amazed to see the freshly minted, cool DJ mayor of Nashville talk about 56 plow crews on the road. I didn't think there were 56 plows in the Metro Nashville vicinity.
There aren't. They borrowed them from Kentucky. They came down from Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That explains a lot.
Yeah, truth. So, for those of you who are just now tuning in, we are back at the Cereal Box, a pop culture podcast that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays of our youth. And when I was a kid, Saturday mornings meant big bowls of cereal, sitting down to watch cartoons, read comic books, watch Kung Fu, Godzilla movies, kaiju movies. And we didn't have smartphones or tablets at the breakfast table. We were reading the back of the cereal box in between cartoons, comic books, and kaiju. And this morning, I've got the very last of the sugar cookie toast crunch. This is Lucas, the best cereal ever made. Ever.
Okay.
It tops Cinnamon Toast Crunch for me. It tops Fruity Pebbles, Captain Crunch, Frosted Flakes, Golden Grahams. It tops them all. It is the absolute best.
And you're pouring that grown-up milk on it.
Yes. You know what?
I'm a fan of almond milk and oat milk and all that stuff. So I feel you. It's also good to keep at work. You know, back when we went to work, there was a longer shelf life in the fridge. Like almond milk takes like, I think 90 days or more to actually reach its date. And then who knows if it's even bad after that.
Right.
So good like work milk because you don't have to worry about waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten so used to almond milk that real whole milk tastes off to me.
Mm.
So anyway, so Willow, you ran to get yours. What do you got in your bowl this morning?
I'm still eating the peanut butter Captain Crunch.
That's
I know
respectable.
it takes me forever because I only eat it on Saturdays.
But did you pour chocolate milk over it?
Ooh.
No, but I have chocolate milk in my coffee, so that kind of makes up for it.
That is a great idea.
That's great.
You know
Half
what?
coffee, half cocoa is a classic in my house.
It's okay, Lucas. I actually was debating on that, but I only bought a little carton of chocolate milk. So,
Well, Aubrey, what do you have in your bowl this morning?
Ooh, I have a new try because I always try to have a new try. You know, me being the newbie, I try to work real hard. So in my bowl, ooh, I found a new one that I have not tried. It is Cocoa Pebbles crunched, not any, but crunched. Okay, like a bit of So, in honor of the fact that if you know, 4 million years went by with the Transformers, and we were technically cave people-ish. So, at least according to that, in honor of that, I wore the only other thing that I have. That is Flintstones. Because cave people, I don't know why they're lounging on the beach, but it works. Okay.
So while you pour that,
okay.
Let's see the back of that box. First. What's on the back?
So this is kind of cool because you can turn it into a speaker.
Yes.
Okay. Like arts and crafts times, kids. Okay. And you put your phone or your sound device in there. And also it has a little scanny. Get close. Let's see if we can get the scanny so other people can use the scanny. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but we're doing it.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
But you have to ask a parent's permission before going online.
Oh, yes. Please ask a parent's or adult supervising person permission. Some people need that even if you're an adult. But I'm going to try this.
She pours the milk first.
I did. Milk first. Always.
I'm going to be interested to see what you think about this because we did try Cocoa Pebbles Crunched over the summer back in May. And it is definitely a different cereal than regular Cocoa Pebbles because it's not the flakes, right? It's a star-shaped nugget. I hate that word.
It's a nugget.
It's a star-shaped pebble.
It is.
And
I'm trying to focus. There we go.
Yeah. And it's definitely got a cereal varnish on it. It's semi-osmotic. It's not.
I will say it is crunchy enough to withstand the milk.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that completely, 100%.
Yeah, that cereal varnish keeps it crunchy for a long time because the milk does not penetrate. It surrounds it, it coats it, but it doesn't penetrate.
Cereal varnish is important. It's how Clark Griswold earned his bonus.
That's right. That's right.
Very chocolatey.
So how do you have anything to compare it with regular?
I love Cocoa Pebbles. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that they just melt too easy, and though they have really good taste, I don't like mushy cereal. That's why my milk goes in first, and I only put a little bit of cereal in at the time. So I'm gonna say this is the highest bowl count we can do for a chocolate cereal, to be honest.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is interesting because I gave Cane Crunch, Cane Brown cereal, 5 bowls out of 5. And I think I gave it an extra spoon because it was the best chocolate cereal I ever had. Lucas, do you have anything in your bowl this morning?
I have a bowl, Johnny. Now, my bowl is filled with what I will admit is a very generic Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's probably from Aldi. But I noticed that you guys seem to have a trend of using red bowls.
Mine is orange.
Well, it looks red over here. So I have a red bowl for my breakfast.
Ah!
And in this
oh my
bowl,
goodness,
I have my cereal right here.
oh my gosh,
And
wow!
in the
That's
cab,
cool.
I have my OJ so I can wash it down. Because that's part of this complete breakfast.
That is cool.
Where in the world did that come from?
So this was the premium for the Transformers Beast movie that came out recently.
Yeah.
At AMC theaters, you could buy. There's the right
that makes
lighting.
sense.
Oh,
You
it's for
can
the
buy
popcorn and the
combo.
drinks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You get a combo with a drink in the cab with 2 straw smokestacks to share it with your honey bunny. And the box in the back would be filled with popcorn. And obviously, since I'm a massive Transformers nerd, I had to have it. But I also bought 2 extra ones that I'm going to put on eBay.
Oh my goodness!
I walked in and I said, I just need 3 trucks. And she goes, what do you want? Do you want the combo? I looked behind me. I said, no, give all the popcorn and the drinks to that family behind me. I just want the trucks. And I walk out of there with 3 trucks under my arms and just hop in the car and leave.
That's fantastic.
AMC Cinemas Premium for the movie. I've used it at Dragon Con as a snack tray and dip bowl for my room party at Dragon Con. It's perfect nerd deployment. So,
would you ship to Canada?
I can indeed.
eBay does.
Or I could just try to throw it real hard, depending.
You're not far from there.
Come close enough to the border so that you can just toss it over.
So, guys,
drive this semi across the Ambassador Bridge. That seems to be a thing that happens.
So guys, I finished off the last bowl of the sugar cookie toast crunch as we were talking. So I've refilled my bowl with a second cereal, the gingerbread toast crunch. And the back of this cereal box is a pattern to build a gingerbread cookie house.
Oh, that's neat.
Yes. So I'm going to be finishing that as we have our panel this morning. And we have to thank the people who make this show possible. Of course, our cereal box super friends, Eli Cash, Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, Charisse Collins, Dave Mattingly, Valerie Davidson, Anthony Sakovich, Day One Comics, George Soroy, Larry Amiet, Elliot Latham, Robert Alsop, and Greg and Crystal Raven Jones. And you too can have your name in lights at patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast. It is scrolling along the bottom as we do this show. So as you feel moved throughout the show, you can just pop over there and drop us a tip in the digital tip jar, $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you feel is appropriate. We don't deserve it, but we appreciate it, and it helps make this show possible. So speaking of our Cereal Box Super Friends, we've got some comments that we desperately need to get to. They are lining up, chomping at the bit, ready to get in. A lot of our regulars, like Dave Mattingly, who says, "Good morning, Box Tops." And Sarah Luca is with us from Memphis. Good morning, Sarah. She says hi. And Dave Mattingly also adds, "Good morning, Johnny Beyond. Oh, yes, I dare." Thank you.
Morning,
Zentron is joining us from across the pond. Good afternoon, all. It's afternoon where he is. And Marissa Henderson is joining us. She says, "Good morning." And Zentron says, "Annoyingly, it hardly ever snows here. Even if it gets minus 20 degrees, chance of snow is low." He's in the UK. I wonder why that is. And
but they do get a lot of rain there, don't they?
Yeah. And Zentron says dairy milk goes through a process of lipolysis. Almond does not. That must be why almond milk lasts much longer. It is actually shelf stable. It does not have to be refrigerated. Although I don't like that.
I don't like it warm either.
Yeah.
No.
Eric Tupper says cereal isn't cereal unless it gets soggy. You know, he's not wrong, Aubrey, because that gives you an excuse to go fast. When your mom always says, "Slow down and chew your food," you have the excuse to go ahead and pour another one. And in my house, with my little brother, you had to do that because the one who finished first got seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't eat fast, you didn't eat.
That was the
That's
best
right.
part of sleepovers. It didn't matter what the parents tried to do to prepare for a sleepover, at least for a whole bunch of 80s little boys. There was not enough cereal in the whole house. And so it was some Lord of the Flies survival, get there first for seconds, or somebody's stuck with the shredded wheat.
Right? Okay. No, you have a point there, sir. That was in my family. I was the oldest, and I seemed to be always stuck with the old people cereal, like grape nuts. I'd be like, for some reason, I'd be like making sure everybody's doing something, or I'm doing something else. I'm scrambling. I go to get my backpack, and all the good cereal is gone. The boxes are empty. You're shaking it, and you're like, oh.
Well, at least then
guess it's grape nuts for life again.
What was that, Lucas?
At least with the empty boxes, you get to build your gingerbread house in your speaker.
Yep. That's right. Dave Mattingly also adds Transformers, cereal in disguise. So I have this question. Lucas, you're the one to answer this question. Last week, we discovered that there was never a G.I. Joe IP cereal. Was there ever a Transformers cereal?
I don't know.
Because that seems like a natural.
Everybody knows.
There weren't as many cereals. Like, there were cereals that did gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if you've ever talked about this on this show, but to me, half the gimmick you ever saw in a cereal was a mistake in the factory, and somebody said, "Let's just go with it." And that's the market to me. I mean, I've always believed in turning a defect into a feature or turning a mistake into a special edition. And
I love that.
I don't know if I've ever seen any of them do Transformers. I don't think there's ever been a branded one, like direct, like Transformers cereal. But maybe somebody along the way did purple Decepticon marshmallows and
exactly
red Autobot, whatever,
or the marshmallows turn the milk a different color, a mystery color, or the cereal turns the milk red, or that seems like a natural tie-in to me. But
yeah. Now, I also don't know what might have happened in Japan. Japan has been merchandising the heck out of Transformers for longer than we have.
Well, we'll talk about why. We'll talk about why in a minute. We're going to save it. Andrew Milden joins us and says, "Who is this guy and why do I love him?" This is Lucas Leveratt. Legend.
I know he's not talking about you. He could be talking about you.
No, Andrew knows who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Tupper says, my all-time favorite cereal in life is Life. Life is really good. Cinnamon Life is one of my favorites. And talking about the gingerbread toast crunch, he says, ooh, that sounds good. It is good. And by the way, you can still get it at Target.
There was a cereal for Transformers.
Was there? Can you upload the image? Yeah.
Someone asked the Oracle, and they found it.
Willow can find stuff in a heartbeat.
It's called Google.
Google doesn't work for me. My search history is so weird that it responds very weirdly.
I just played that all the way through my imagination.
Yeah. You're welcome. As she's loading that, Zentron says, no cereal for me today. Forgot to get any milk last night. So I had 3, count them, 3 grilled cheese sandwiches instead. Ooh, I wonder, grilled cheese sandwiches, will it cereal? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, we're going to be finding out real soon.
What?
I think that's a next episode.
Milk? Oh.
Cheese is milk.
If you got really creative,
Savory cereal?
give it a long or wide latitude of cheese. You could come up with a cream cheese grilled cheese mini and make sure it's grilled and in tiny cereal form.
I have cream cheese and I love cooking fun, weird things.
I don't know.
I
Cheese
love
curds
this idea.
in milk. I don't
Or
know.
you could just find grilled crackers or baked crackers and Cheez-Its and stick them all in a bowl of cereal and see how that goes.
We did that. We did that.
You did that?
Oh, yeah. So we did about a year ago, before you joined us, Aubrey, we did a Will It cereal segment with Ritz peanut butter crackers.
Oh, yeah, the little itty bitty ones.
Oh, no. And how was that?
They're delicious.
Okay.
You
know
wouldn't
what
think it.
I'm thinking of it with the almond milk and the vanilla sweet flavor. Maybe with regular milk.
Here's the.
Yeah.
They
Here's
did
what
do a
the-
Transformers cereal by Ralston. Okay, that makes sense. So Ralston did also the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles original cereal. And they were bought by General Mills. And General Mills just completely crapped the bed on it.
It
So
looks
it
like it's
basically
just
looks like Cocoa Puffs.
chocolate puff. Yeah.
But that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, little bit of cereal trivia. Lucas lives just 30 minutes away from Kellogg's corporate office.
45, maybe an hour, but yeah. Or 2 today. Actually, the highways are pretty good.
So
We have a General Mills factory in my city.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, that explains a lot of anyway, never mind. I'm going to leave that alone. Winnipeg. It was a Winnipeg joke, but I don't want to diss your city. So
Everybody else does.
yeah, they do. And okay, so here's Dave Mattingly shares this info. The Transformers cereal was designed, but it never made it to shelves. That's why we don't know about it, Lucas.
Oh.
That sounds like a very
So prototype.
Transformers tale. That happened. Yeah. That is a Transformers trope of its own.
Maybe they did a small dry run.
Oh. That was good, Aubrey. That was good. And Dave Mattingly adds, Zentron, grilled cheese has dairy and grain, so it qualifies as cereal. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Andrew Milden says, safe search on, Johnny. No, when so I do searches all the time on Mythology and on like trying to find connections between mythology and religion, and then tying that to contemporary literature, because I write books. And so a lot of I get obsessed. I go down these rabbit holes. And especially lately, I've been researching the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, and other races of giants. So when I type in Transformers cereal, the results are going to be so weird. So it's so weird.
Talking about?
It's so weird. Anyone who gets that reference gets a gold star. It's weird. It's so weird.
It sounds like Marky Mark.
It sounds like John Travolta.
Oh, really? But from where? Willow?
Oh,
Grease?
No.
It's either that or Welcome Back, Kotter.
Ding, 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 ding. Welcome back. One of my all-time favorite shows growing up.
no, really?
I love that show.
Oh,
Love that show.
I've never seen it.
Aubrey. Oh my gosh.
You know, I love when I'm the person in the room who hasn't seen something, because I kid you not, like I was in the room this
Shocking.
week with people who'd never seen Babylon 5, and I felt like I was the biggest nerd ever.
I've seen Babylon 5.
Thank goodness.
I just don't like it.
Whoa! Well, they just came out with an animated of Babylon 5, and I am a Sheridan and Zathras fan. So-
All right. I'm a Star Trek Deep Space Nine fan. That was my jam when Babylon. Between those, I love Deep Space Nine because Deep Space Nine was good Star Wars. Anyway, it is time for Cereal Box Prizes, otherwise known as New Loot. And this segment is brought to you by my book series, Tales of the Decoverse. Get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy books. And for those of you who don't know, when I was a kid, not only were we eating cereal at the breakfast table, there were prizes, toys in the box, and you would reach in and dig out the prize and pull it out. And so this is like our favorite part of Saturday morning. And so this morning, I'm going to reach into my box, and I've got, in theme for the show, my very first Transformers figure. I've never had Transformers. This is $4.15 at Kroger. Didn't come in a box, didn't come in a package, just came with a tag wrapped around, it's like a hanger tag wrapped around Optimus Prime's head. Nothing moves except the shoulder and hip joints and the head. So there's no articulation. It doesn't transform. But you know what? You know what, Lucas? I complain about Hasbro's prices on action figures a lot. And, $34 for Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black Series figures, but yet they can produce this for $4.15. And that's after the 20 to 50% markup at the retail. So if they can produce, and this is not, it's not like high end, but it's quality. This is like what we would have had when I was growing up, before Transformers were even created. The Mego and the Star Wars figures, that level of quality. So anyway, and he even has his Energon axe, which I am told is like a standard feature for Optimus Prime. So
it is. And what's funny is you've got a non-transforming Prime that's $4.
Yeah.
And earlier when we were educating Johnny before the show about the axe. It's a constant in Prime's arsenal. And the funny thing is, one of the figures I reached for that I showed you, yes, the axe is always present in Prime's situation. This is also a non-transforming, which I did not get the same deal you did. This was like $79. So
Is it diecast?
No. It's there's a company I forgot who they are that makes these replica high detail replicas, very posable but not transformable. And I thought it would be bigger. I thought it would be the size of this Bumblebee that was a gift to me, which turns out one can acquire those for about $300. So it was a really nice high-end gift that I did not expect to receive. But
so somewhere
is a constant. We taught him a Transformers thing this morning.
So somewhere between $4.15 and $300, the truth lies.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So Willow, you got any new loot, any prizes from the cereal box this morning?
I was an adult and bought myself some new stuff for my kitchen. So
adulting is so overrated.
I swear, like I needed new oven mitts, so I kind of raided the dollar store yesterday. And
this is technically a drinking vessel. It's for the
yeah. So here's the thing.
Love that thing.
Here's a little secret, everybody. I don't always buy the prizes that I show off. Normally they're gifts or they're sent by a company for us to show off and review, or I just pull them out of the closet and pretend they're brand new. Shh. I'm just saying, Willow.
Look,
you got
I
options.
brought out my RC.
Yeah, okay. So you do have some new loot to show. So this is RC, the female motorcycle, right?
Oh, cool. I didn't get to see one of those, honestly.
Well, so she was a character that was introduced in the Transformers movie in 1987 and then kind of vanished until Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I don't remember seeing her again in any other Transformer IPs, but Lucas, you're the expert on that.
Well, she had figures along the way. I think the first time was an exclusive for BotCon one year. She has had iterations. I think the one that Willow has is a Michael Bay motorcycle version, the Bayverse, or is it from the Rise of the Beast?
I think it might be. I don't know. I think
Rise of the Beast. She's a little more built as a personification, and the Bay ones, the Bay motorcycles, look a little bit like a Giger approach to making something that resembles an upright biped. So the wackier, weirder, and alien they look, they're usually Bay, Michael Bay.
Yeah, this is definitely Michael Bay.
Which is not always bad, just sometimes weird.
She looked way better in the cartoons.
But a lot of us as kids were just dying to see the female. There were more than her. There was Elita 1, and we always wanted to have those in more media and in toys, and it took them until we were all grown up to start doing it.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's because even today, Lucas, the suits at the toy companies believe that girls don't buy action figures. They really do believe that.
I think Hasbro only recently gave up having a VP of boys' toys and a VP of girls' toys. Those used to be the two sides of the house.
Yeah. Well, and
I won't lie and say I never wanted to be the VP of boys' toys at Hasbro.
Well, and in California, retail stores are not allowed to have a boys section or girls section in the store. Did you know that?
I think I'd heard that.
Now, here's how they get around that.
Barbie's still going to get a whole aisle. There's too much.
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was just going to say. They're like in Walmart. There's still like the correlation between boys and girls toys.
Well, in Walmart, but not in California.
Oh.
In California, now here's how they get around it. They have an aisle for action figures and an aisle for quote unquote dolls, Barbie. And so they're not labeled boys and girls.
Has like that separation too.
Yes, but they're not. They're trying to get rid of it. So Aubrey just like sent me a gazillion images, and I'm trying to download these and upload them because I was a lazy show host this week, and I didn't do any of this pre-show work, and so now she's sending it all to me.
I found an image of BotCon, and you mentioned, Lucas, you mentioned BotCon. I had never heard of BotCon. I'm a con goer. I know Willow's a con goer. Johnny's a con goer. I started really late in life going to conventions. I still love it. I'm actually just at a volunteer meeting for the Middle Tennessee Anime Convention that's coming up because they sent me an invite to be part of the volunteer again. And I was like, you know what? Just because, you know, I really want to go and just have fun and just be silly and not really worry about anything and not be responsible doesn't mean they don't really need it. And honestly, if you're an adult or if you're under 18 and you get your parents' permission, volunteering at a convention is not just for you. Honestly, it's for your whole community, and it can really, really help. BotCon is totally new to me, and I am kind of interested. I love Legos, and I do like the idea of transformative toys. So I'm interested in trying it at least once. And
well, it was recently revived. They dropped it for a while because it used to be backed by Hasbro, but not direct produced. And then someone picked the ball up and got it going again. And the first one back, I think, was held in Nashville, which kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because it happened after I was gone. And I was like, I don't want to go all the way back for usually the first one out the gate is a little bit wonky. So I don't want to go all the way back and be disappointed because having run so many events, it's like I can't go to an event without.
Yeah,
just wrong. Like this is wrong. This should be this way. This could be fixed.
And it was like just 2 years ago that it came back.
Yeah. It's been out for like 5-year gap. They move it around, or they used to. I hope they still do, because that was always the neat thing is, will BotCon be in my area? Kind of like Star Wars Celebration moves around to large locations. Yeah. But you could get exclusives. Sometimes they were silly. They were just recolors of other figures with a name slapped on them, which Hasbro actually does that a lot in the business model now.
Yeah, they do it themselves. So,
but sometimes they were really cool exclusives that you would just never have seen anywhere else. Yeah, these are from BotCon. Yeah, 2015. That's about right. That might have been when I went. I went to one in Lexington, Kentucky.
Ah.
So
one of my old stomping grounds. So Aubrey, what prizes do you have from your cereal box this morning?
Oh, okay. So in the cereal box, when we were kids, as Johnny said more than once, we loved finding some kind of prize. Now, sometimes there wasn't a prize, I'm not gonna lie, and sometimes the prize sucked. But in honor of us doing a show about robots, I was like, come on, I should have one comic that I have not looked at that might have something of relevance. And I could not find Transformers, but unearthing this feels wrong and exciting at the same time, because I'm doing it live again, touching a comic book that other people will be like, get your fingers off that. So,
no, look, comic books are made to be read.
Right.
And
play with them.
Yeah. So Robotech, the Macro Saga, was published by Comico Comics, which is no longer in business, by the way. But this used to be available on newsstands. So this is how old this was. This was a newsstand series before they went to direct to comic book specialty shops.
Yep.
And
1985.
Yeah.
1985 on here.
That's cool.
What I was looking for.
And then she ripped it right there on the live stream.
Right? Oh my gosh, I would have cried a little. But 1985, y'all. So we went in the way back machine again and tried to find something that pertained to the era. And the artistry is very simple. But honestly, I'm really loving the pop of color and the old school. Right on the back, we've got a Robotech. I'm going to go straight to the back real quick.
Nice.
We've got a Robotech. You know I love the advertisements, Johnny. So that's pretty cool. And if we go to the middle page, there's always something interesting. Oh, Did not disappoint.
The centerfold.
Right, right. Big centerfold. Sometimes it was spicy in more than one way, and sometimes it was just like, "Ooh, I want that."
Justice Machine. So that was, that was a huge. Tony Isabella was the artist on that, and that was a huge series back in the day. A lot of hoopla.
See, this is it's some good stuff. It's classic,
Well, it looks like anime,
which
is appropriate.
It is appropriate. It's very appropriate.
And we should do a show on Robotech because there's so much to get into.
Really should.
Yeah, look at some of the great titles that Comico had. They had Grendel, which is still around today. Robotech is still around today. Those are published by IDW and Image Comics now. Johnny Quest. Oh my gosh, the memories.
So there's just good stuff in the older comics. If you find an older comic, don't shy away from it just because it's something that's older that you're thinking, you're not going to enjoy. You might be pleasantly surprised.
Well, here's the thing with that, Aubrey, is I've talked about this quite a bit. Marvel and DC are making big bank money on re-releasing classic stories in what they call facsimile editions. They're reprinted exactly like they were in the 70s and 80s, ads, everything, but with remastered colors and on higher grade paper.
Well, this is authentic. This is from
yes.
I was 5 years old, no.
Right, but here's my point, Aubrey. Those classic stories are selling way better than anything new coming out. So if you want to read good comics, go back 2-3 decades. Pick up a Robotech Macra Saga or pick up something from 1985 to read a good substantial story.
Johnny, I have a trivia question for the comment section.
Yes. So
I don't know if anybody's going to win anything but bragging rights, but since someone brought Robotech up in a Transformers conversation, I'm interested to see if anybody watching actually knows what the tie between the Transformers toy line and the Robotech franchise is. So we'll see if they know that. That'll be fun to watch in the comments.
I don't think I know.
Dave?
I can't wait for you to find out.
If anybody knows, I'm sure Dave would.
Well, so Lucas, show off your prize from the cereal box. What is your loot?
Before I get to that, I want to pinpoint this itty bitty Transformer right back here. Since you brought up your first Transformer came from the grocery store, and I think you said Kroger.
Yeah.
That tiny Transformer at the end of my pencil is Huffer from 1983 or something. And he was bought off an end cap at Kroger in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for $2.99. And then his modern re-release is right next to him because I have my first ever Transformer and the most recent. But the loot, I had to back up for this. My loot is unopened Transformers because I buy stuff on opportunity and then don't have time to get it out on a shelf. But they released the Decepticons ship, Nemesis.
So cool.
As a giant that transforms, and it'd be the size of these guys behind me. And I pre-ordered it because I'm a nerd. All my devices are named after Decepticon stuff. And my car's nickname and license plate is Nemesis. Because it carries all my Decepticons around. And once I bought that, I had to snatch the Autobot ship really quick to match, which I had been sitting on in my Amazon cart. So the Ark, which plays into this storyline that I believe we will discuss.
Yes.
So I have both of these giants in boxes because they need to be situated somewhere, and I have to rework this whole office to make that happen.
Well, and
my loot is unopened Transformers.
So you've got the Decepticons ship, which looks remarkably like the warships from Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets, Voltron, and the Autobots ship looks remarkably like the Millennium Falcon.
It very much seems like the inspirations are clear.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about that. We have some more comments here in a minute. And Dave Mattingly says most truth lies between $415 and $300.
That's true.
There are so many comments that we're probably not going to get through them all today. But we will respond in the feeds on Facebook because, guys, I sadly have a hard out at 9 because I promised the spousal unit that I will take the trash to the recycling center, and they close at noon. So I've got 2 loads that I got to take. I got to take 1 truckload, then I got to load up another truckload, and I got to do it all. And you know, they've been shut down for a week, which means there's going to be a line.
You have kids that need to learn their place in this world.
Adult children do need to help a little. Not gonna lie.
Daughter's gone, son's working.
Oh,
I made a promise. So,
okay.
So Willow, you may have to finish out the show in my absence, but you are going to be great.
I shall do my best.
Yeah. So, it is time to talk about our main topic, and that is Weekday Animated Series 101. And this week we are talking about the Transformers. If you haven't already figured that out, Transformers, more than meets the eye. And this is Tale of the Tape. The Transformers is an American-Japanese animated series that originally aired from September 17th, 1984 through November 11th, 1987. And it was based on Hasbro's Transformers toy line. It was the first television series in the Transformers franchise, and it depicts a war among giant robots that can transform into vehicles and other objects. And there's a lot of history behind this, but you know, one of the things that I learned this week, Lucas, that I did not know is that Transformers is actually the distant cousin that has its roots in what is that static sound? Is that on my end? What am I hearing?
Giggling, Johnny.
Huh?
I'm just giggling.
No, I hear something doing this. Is that you, Lucas, moving stuff around your desk? Anyway, here's what I found.
You're just getting old.
When I was a kid, one of my all-time favorite toys was the Micronauts.
You have found this connection. All right.
Yes. Yes. So I love the Micronauts, and I loved the comic series. I was obsessed with Micronauts. And Micronauts were actually the American version of the Japanese toy Micro Man. And Micro Man had a transforming toy called the Micron, I believe is what it was called. And Hasbro bought the Micronauts. And when they bought Micro Man / Micronauts, they also bought Micron, the transforming character, and they turned that into the Transformers. Long story short, there are more events in between, but basically,
why your old school Transformers have a little seat in them for a little person that you never got.
See,
Aubrey, you're muted.
This is the thing. I have an admission to make. I admitted this when we covered the movie. So we did the Transformers movie about a month or two ago, and I admitted that.
How did I miss that? You got to call the guy.
Yeah. But here was my thing, Lucas, and I confess this on air, and I'm going to confess it again. I was never really a Transformers fan. I would watch it because it was on after school when I got home, but I was never like gaga over the Transformers. And
Lucas, if he says GoBots, I punch him for me.
No. Now, wait, I did have a GoBots toy that was given to me by my grandma, but that's a whole nother thing, right? But I never
owns that now, and they've released a Transformers version of the GoBot black race car. So it's all crossed over.
It's all one Energon universe. So, but here's the thing. I was never wild about the Transformers because of that very reason. I never understood why giant robots would need to transform into vehicles. I mean, they're giant robots. I mean, that's cool by itself. I was more of a Voltron guy. I was more of a Robotech guy. Today, I'm a huge fan of Pacific Rim. Robots that are piloted by and now that all makes sense. If the Transformers had been piloted by human pilots, I would have been all over it. Because then transforming into vehicles would have made more sense.
Well,
a little bit.
I feel like
they disguise themselves.
But why do they need to disguise themselves?
Xenophobia. They would all get killed. Haven't you seen America in the 80s?
Well,
I feel like they did a better job explaining the whole Transformer thing when Beast Wars came out.
Oh wait, the series or the movie?
The series.
Okay, because the movie was not good at all.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I was so excited for that.
It was a reason to make a movie. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a mess.
But Aubrey, you sent us this this image of what Fluffy, the transforming
Muffy. So right when they were doing the 3 animated part series for the Transformers Marvel Productions, there was a little rumbling about Muffy, the transforming Volkswagen, who had it was supposed to be Car and Cable is what it was called. And it was kind of, as you can see, Bumblebee-esque from one of those movies of the Transformers movies that some people choose not to name. And it was supposed to have a fun dog and multiple human characters with this transforming Volkswagen. And this was before the official, not the 3-part miniseries, but before the official series started. And that was something that was debunked, like it was taken away immediately. But as you can see by that picture there, it was supposed to be almost like, we had a little dog character. We had a fun little group. It's a little Scooby-esque.
But what was this from?
It was supposed to be called Car and Cable. It was never created. It was something they were kicking around, and they never actually created this.
Who is they?
It's Marvel Productions.
Okay, so here's why. So Marvel Productions made the Transformers series with Sunbow Animation. So they scrapped previous plans is what happened. Because you can see the shadow of whatever villain is in this picture. He has a very Transformer-esque Shogun Warriors type headpiece, which Marvel had the license to Shogun Warriors. And
at the end of Optimus Prime's gun and Starscream's shoulders are sticking out of that Volkswagen for some reason. There's a lot of design elements that made it over.
Yeah. So anyway,
the characters kind of give me Attack of the Killer Tomato vibe. A little bit.
I tell people all the time that the baseline rule, whenever we're talking about Transformers, is to remember that this was a cartoon series created after deregulation allowed for long-form toy-based content that would ultimately push marketing to products. And the Transformers toy line was made up of not just the one toy, but several toys taken from Japan, several transforming robot toys, because there was a whole separate line of household objects that transformed into stuff. And that's how they got the gun that is Megatron. There were 3 different guns that you could buy as a kid in Japan to protect your home with. And when the aliens came, your little transforming alien robot could turn into a gun and you could defend yourself. You can see all the hundreds of reasons that premise never made it into America. And the tape deck and the camera and these little objects that were your little robot buddy. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Watch.
Yep, one of the originals.
And so they combined all this stuff into one series, one genre or one franchise, and made one thing out of it, and then used a cartoon to sell those toys. So it's really 3 or 4 layers deep of just a bunch of marketing. So when people argue about certain semantics, I always try to point out to them, let's all remember that we're arguing about a cartoon.
Yeah, and so Hasbro is actually the one that can claim, if you look up enough of the info, Lucas, you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but Hasbro is the one who actually turned them from the idea of living mechs into sentient people. Like, and that's where they when they bought that, licensed it from Takara, they were just like, hey, you know what, we're going to do this. And that's everywhere you look, that's where they show the credit of them going from living mechs to an actual sentient race.
It was part of the storytelling choices and the personification choices, and it worked. And then the neat thing to me culturally is that it fed back into Japan, where America is like Mickey Mouse is on everything. Japan is Optimus Prime is on everything. And when they did the series of that, we call them alternators, but it was a licensed replica, scale replicas of real cars with the cars branding on the box and everything. And I've got most of those. They wanted to do a Dodge Ram. And the Japan side of the equation, the Vinyltech was the name of the Japanese version. And in Japan, they said, we're not doing that. We can't, no one has a truck like that here. No one's going to buy a transforming robot toy of a truck like that. We're not doing it. And they tried to find a compromise. And the Japanese side said, this is what the Takara people, they said, okay, fine. If we can make it Optimus Prime, we can sell it. They'll buy anything with Optimus Prime. So the red Dodge Ram turns into Optimus Prime, which I think is ridiculous. It should have been Ironhide, but what do I know? And then they killed the line before we got to Megatron, who was going to be that slick 2-door Cadillac sports car, the Cadillac wrapped around a Corvette I forgot, STS. I don't know what it's called. I don't do Cadillac. But what a perfect car for Megatron. The edgy, angled, boxy, sharp, pointy Cadillac. And we didn't ever get it because they killed the Vinyltech line to go do the Transformers toys for Bay's movies. And that's the only real negative I have about Bay's movies. He can do his thing, whatever. They're fine. They are what they are. But they killed a great Decepticon to build those toys.
Well, so this is, talking about the 84 to 87 animated series. This is the first animated series that I remember that, other than Flash Gordon on Saturday mornings, that was actually multi-part sequential episodic storytelling. Now, I could be wrong about that, but really, to understand what was going on, you had to see the previous episode, the previous day. And back in my day, we didn't even have VCRs then. Like the richest people on the block had a VCR, so you couldn't even tape something and watch it back. So if you missed it, until it maybe came around again. And this show was the first Marvel weekday show. There was a whole thing going on culturally with Marvel and Sunbow and Filmation to be the first to conquer weekday animation. So you had Transformers, you had G.I. Joe, you had He-Man, She-Ra, you had Great Space Coaster was a weekday show, weekday morning show. And you had some others. My Little Pony was a weekday show. And they imported Voltron and Battle of the Planets and Robotech and Speed Racer to be shown on weekdays. And there was this race to dominate weekdays. And really, I think the winners were Transformers and He-Man. They were on the top. G.I. Joe was a close third, I think.
I'm trying to remember if G.I. Joe and He-Man contained everything in every single episode as a one-off.
I think He-Man...
Transformers raised the bar on them. I'm trying to remember how that flows, because they were both out a year before, but I think they were that model of problem, escalation, resolution, we're done. There's
No.
now you gotta know what's going on in the next episode. I don't think that did happen until Transformers, but I can't.
Well, you're right, but G.I. Joe followed the pattern. So we just reviewed G.I. Joe last week, and the first 2 miniseries were 5-part story arcs, and then once it went to a regular series with 65 episodes, which were all produced at one time, it was the first story arc was 5 parts. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get the whole story. So, and I was glad that this story arc, More Than Meets the Eye, was just a 3-parter. Past 3 parts, I start to lose my attention. But here's what I came away with this, because it's been 40 years since I've watched this show, and so I didn't remember a lot. I remembered Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Jazz, because Scatman Crothers was the voice of Jazz. I did not remember that Jazz was second in command, which was a fun surprise to remember. I didn't remember Starscream being the
Diva.
the diva, the upstart, the usurper to Megatron. And I certainly did not remember Megatron being a real threat. He was a real villain, not like Cobra Commander. I don't know how Cobra Commander got anyone to follow him, but Megatron, he was the real deal.
Well, Cobra Commander, we find out, is just a patsy puppet for a larger mythological culture. So there's a reveal that explains his ineptitude to some extent. But interestingly enough, the bumbling villain being played by the same voice actor, Cobra Commander and Starscream, Chris Latta, rest his soul.
And Starscream as the usurper, he was the one making the mistakes and costing the Decepticons victories. However, in this 3-part series, I didn't see very many mistakes that the Decepticons made, and the big mistakes were made by this guy, Optimus Prime. And this is my hot take. This is going to either gain us a lot of hate viewers or cost us all of our revenue from Patreon.
No.
Optimus Prime, in my opinion, was the most ineffectual, incompetent leader ever. He didn't do a single thing right, including making sure the Decepticons were really destroyed at the end. Oh, nothing could survive that crash. Oh, they're at the bottom.
You will find that he gets his act together, but I think you're not wrong about the lack of prosecution to an end. The idea, I think, was to make him so heroic that he spared the enemy, and in our sensibility, to a fault. Which is why in, I think one of the Bay movies, he basically just blows Megatron's head off, and all the guys in the theater are like, finally! Yeah! Because it's like he spent 30 years wondering,
it was cathartic, okay?
Exactly, don't you obliterate this dude.
Well, so everybody watching, I do have a hard out that I have to go, but I want to leave us with this one other thing. It struck me, and then you guys can finish up after I'm gone and make fun of me behind my back. It struck me that Optimus Prime, and who was the voice actor, Lucas?
It's usually Peter Cullen and occasionally a couple of other folks.
Okay.
But in the classic series, always Peter Cullen.
Peter Cullen was definitely channeling John Wayne.
He says that openly.
Yeah. I have never heard that in any interviews, but there's one line where he's like, he says, hold it in neutral. And it sounds like John Wayne. Well, hold it in neutral, you Autobots. And I was like, oh my gosh, he is channeling John Wayne. Optimus Prime is John Wayne.
He has talked about that similarity to some extent. And then the characterization, vocalization he's openly stated came from his brother. He admired a lot of the mannerisms of his brother and tried to kind of put all that together into this hero voice.
Well, it works. It works. So, hey guys, I got a cruise, but Willow, before you go off the air, make sure you run the comic books for kids ad.
Yes.
And play Can't Beat an Original. And you guys, I'm going to go haul stuff to the trash. Lucas, Aubrey, Willow, you're in charge. You guys have a great rest of the day. I'll catch you on the back of the cereal box.
Have a good day, fearless
Thanks,
leader.
man.
Bye-bye.
Before we transition away from that phase, I have not seen a correct answer in the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and connect that Robotech dot. There's a Transformers character, Jetfire, who in the catalog, in fact, that catalog image had it, and I should have used that as the opportunity to point to it. But in the catalog, you might have seen, was totally unlike any other transforming robot in that entire line. The only one that looked that way, because it was a Macross Jet repaint licensed figure. But they only had a license for the toy. So in the show, Jetfire's completely different design altogether because they could not use the animated image of the Macross Jet.
Yeah, but there's a couple people. Dave said.
Oh, there we go. Dave, okay, cool. I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
awesome.
Macross
Right, well,
and
Dave wins the bragging rights. There we go. So yeah, I always thought that was kind of cool because when I was a kid, I was like, why does he look this way? He's not even in scale with anything else. You can ask, my whole family knows my scale obsession. Like I would mess with our child. Like you can't, no, you can't combine that. So when I was a kid, I had no idea. And then I got a little more sophisticated in my media consumption and discovered Macross and Robotech. Like, oh, and then of course I was able to start researching and find out. Now it's kind of a hot thing for the cartoon version of that figure to be released. And that one's super expensive. Because it's been limited most times, but it's one of those cool characters. Commander class Skyfire Jetfire. There you go.
So I have a question for you, Lucas, and Willow. Because Johnny, right? We didn't get to do it while Johnny was here, but what was your first introduction to mechs? Because I feel like that we should have asked that while Johnny was still here.
It was definitely
your very first.
This series.
Some people it was Transformers because technically they were mechs in design originally. So what was your very first like mechs?
The series that we're talking about today is definitely how I got through that door. But Voltron was right behind that.
See, for me it was Voltron. For me it was Voltron.
Yeah, I think it was the same for me. Like I watched Transformers and Voltron as a kid, but I think what really got me into the whole Transformers thing later on was Beast Wars, and I loved that show. That was like one of my favorite shows to watch. And then I can't remember who it was. I know I recognize the voices. It's like, why does this sound so familiar? And then a couple of my friends went, well, they're Transformers. It's like,
yeah, did you stumble into it not knowing it was Transformers?
Kind of, yeah, because I remember when the animation first started, it was around the same time as Reboot.
And you didn't even have the animation similarity to link it. It was a completely different concept. I had that experience with Silverhawks. I came home one day and Silverhawks was on TV. And I'm like, when did the Thundercats go to space? And
that's fair. That's fair.
It's the 80s. You don't have the internet to just go look it up and find out. You had to literally come home every day and be like, okay, I'm going to catch the opening sequence this time and see what this is. And then eventually realize, like, oh, all the production emblems at the end of this show are the same. So it's just the same people with a different show, and they put it on back to back with Thundercats. And like, was Beast Wars an afternoon show?
Yes.
It depended on where you lived.
Yeah,
I remember seeing some in the mornings, but it might have been a rerun.
It in Canada ran really weird. Like we had our cartoon, we had YTV, which showed like all the like Saturday morning cartoons stuff, but but it was like after school on weekdays where a lot of the cartoons were shown as well. And so Reboot, I think Reboot was and Beast Wars were like their back-to-back think that they moved around so much that I ended up having to catch it like early mornings sometimes.
See, when I was a young adult is when Beast Wars happened, and I was really cynical about it because it landed at the same time as Jurassic Park, the film. To be clear, the film, not
okay,
the
yeah.
So when I'm walking down the toy aisle as a like 19, 20-year-old and seeing this Beast Wars thing, I haven't watched cartoons in a while. Like I was in my anime phase and joining the anime club. And like, if I watched a cartoon, it was probably gonna be anime at the time. So I had no attachment to what was going on in Transformers. I just knew that my classic stuff was dead and gone. And somewhere in between, they released a really weird oil tanker Optimus Prime that I thought was ugly. And I stopped paying attention. And then I see these dinosaurs that transform into Transformers. And I'm like, oh, what a grab. What a ridiculous attempt to just ride the stupid dinosaur wave. And I was so cynical that they were just trying to make bucks because people like dinosaurs again.
I think a lot of people felt that way, though.
Story, and it had a whole thing. And so I've learned, I haven't watched it. It's hard for me to get behind, but I've read the whole plot line and how they crossed into the golden disc and the dormant Transformers that are in stasis. This whole series, which is fascinating for those that are thinking about the show that we're talking about with this miniseries of Transformers, it takes place between the cut. All of Beast Wars takes place between the cut in the first episode of Transformers while they're asleep. So it's a really neat, like, I love it when entertainment properties do that. They find this little space, like, what story could we tell here? And so I thought that was cool. I still can't, I can't get enthusiastic about it, but I do understand the cultural enthusiasm for Optimus Primal, which I still think is a silly name. But like the one value of the new movie was you got to see that stuff in a real life context and smashing robots, throwing and shooting, and that was the value of the film. There was no story logic to it whatsoever. But the value of the film, if you wanted to go see giant real life looking robots smash the crap out of each other, and you're a Beast Wars kid, it delivered what you were looking for. This original series, I think it's a staple robot entry for a lot of people.
Going back to it, I'm glad that we did the going back to look at the Transformers, because it brought back a lot of memories and lots of nostalgia. I don't know, because there was so many cartoons going on at that time that I missed a lot from the 80s. So it was nice. What did you guys think of doing the return to take a look at Transformers? What's your adult view on, because I know we have our kid view where we're like, we love the Transformers, but what's the adult view of the Transformers?
Well, let's save the best for last with Lucas. I'll tell mine real quick.
I was ladies firsting anyway. You gotta go.
All politeness over here. I love it.
You gotta go.
I want to, before the end, I want to throw in some of the few details and see if Lucas has known them or if anybody in the comments did. And if there's anybody in the comments that has some cute details that we may not know, please let us know. But honestly, Willow, as far as just like rewatching it as an adult, I hate to say this, but I want to watch more. Okay, it's not for me. Yes, I am one of those. I love anime too, Lucas. Like, I want to talk about that with you in the future because I'm a hardcore anime fan. Especially now in my life, I've seen way too many. But so the animation just makes me a little sick sometimes, especially when you see one panel and they immediately seconds later change the color of all the characters accidentally because the panel right after is like done by someone else. But there's so much more to this than I thought there was. As a kid, I saw mechs, and Voltron. I all of a sudden Transformers. That's what I saw as a kid. As an adult, there's a huge story here. There is an enormous flushed out story of so many intricate details. And I'm trying not to mention any of the things that I know, but yes, I 100%, I have to watch more again. So.
Yeah, there's never been a time that I haven't rewatched. Like, Johnny sent me the links to be sure I was focusing on the episodes. and I didn't have to rewatch that. It's all memorized, but it's really fun when you do watch it. They pretty much run it. I think they still run it like just on a loop on YouTube all the time. So you can just go,
yeah, they do
turn on the marathon.
Thank
And
you,
it's fun to sit there and laugh. You know, you see stuff and you're like, it was just so silly or ridiculous or whatever. Or the production things that I think maybe I either didn't notice or didn't care as a kid. But like you said about the colorations, you would have these cells that are painted by somebody that didn't get the memo, or they're looking at the old guide. And it leads to these hilarious lifelong fan debates, like whether Rumble is red or blue, because there have been different ones referred to Rumble, and you have different toys choosing to be red or blue. And then there's a controversy and an argument somewhere in a web forum about like, this Rumble's blue, that's stupid, or I don't like red Rumble. And it's just so entertaining to find. One of the pieces that I love is finding things I didn't know, because I joked earlier about being a big nerd and naming all my devices after Decepticons. But at some point, I run out of stuff I can remember, and I have to go to Wikipedia to find a device name, because I also want them to be appropriate names. So my phone has been Soundwave for like a long time, because it's a communications device that plays music, and the communications specialist for the Decepticons played music. So, that, and then my speakers, wireless speakers around the house, are named after the tapes. So there's a Buzzsaw, Frenzy, Rumble, and
that's so cute.
scale to what it is. And I'm a serious nerd. Like Unicron is my home theater receiver, because it kind of does.
Oh, nice.
So in that effort, I've run out of names. So when I get something new, like I got a new Fire Stick the other day for the downstairs to put in front of the treadmill and the drum set. And I'm like, well, I need to name it something Decepticon. What was that tape I just discovered? Oh, Squawk Box. That's perfect for a TV.
Yeah.
So it's fun to go down the wiki rabbit hole, or especially the Transformers wikis.
Yeah.
Those are fun because there's a lot of adult humor in the photo captions when you get into the Teletran wiki. But yeah, it's really interesting as an adult to go back and see these things and be like, what was that? Was that ever a toy? And, like you get in these fun little loops with all of our modern resources and your adult view of it.
I often refer my husband's truck as being a Decepticon, because whenever it like sputters and it doesn't want to start, I'm just like, okay, come on, baby, you can start. And then like he'll try to talk to it, and I'm just like, you know what? Quit being a bitch.
Well, earlier I mentioned that Starscream is the diva. There's a whole internet rabbit hole. Speaking of adult interpretations of our childhood media, there is an entire internet rabbit hole you can go down exploring Starscream's disposition, Starscream's gender identity,
oh my God,
Starscream's psychoses.
Oh my God, I need a drag queen to do this. Somebody, listen to the internet. Somebody needs to do a Starscream drag queen, please.
There's a litany of fan art of Starscream with sassy high heels. Like,
yes,
it is a rabbit hole that you must dive into. It's so entertaining, and there are a couple people who have done videos on the subject. There are times when Starscream's characterization has been a little androgynous, and you wondered, and I love the short quip, Starscream was the first queen that I was exposed to. That's what a lot of people start to say once they go down that rabbit hole.
Yes, that is great.
It's too fun. It's a lifelong gift, and they know that because they can charge people $200 for giant robots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to download this. Apparently Aubrey found like a member card, that like mail away member card that you can get like cool little stuff for.
There are probably way more comments than you could ever get on the screen, but I love that there's a lot of fan wisdom going on. There's a lot of
Peter Cullen's voice
has been
Hey
in so
guys,
many
hanging
things.
in there. Jason and Metatron have it going on today,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dave's still there with us.
They're hammering it out with the trivia facts. And yes, it's true. Cullen's voice is in a lot of things. He's the opening narrator for Voltron. Welker, that did Megatron, was also oh crap, Freddy. I knew I could remember who he was. Freddy and Scooby-Doo.
Oh yes.
Cullen was Eeyore. So
Oh, nice.
Eeyore and Optimus Prime are the same voice ish.
Oh my god, that explains so much about
Doesn't
my
it?
title.
So apparently this year is the 40th anniversary of Transformers. So that's interesting. I'm hey, at least I'm glad that we're doing this little look back so that we can celebrate it.
The curve, right?
But yeah, Zentron Peter did a few voices in Voltron.
I thought I had a 40th anniversary box, but apparently
The
not.
G1 series only ended in the US in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
It went for 4 more seasons in Japan.
Oh yeah, Japan was hardcore about that. Like they were like, "Oh, we're good. You know what? We're gonna skip all of the other ones because we've gone and partnered. So we're just gonna go forward with all of the Transformer art and all of the Transformer commercials and everything we can put out there. It's if you want more Transformers and you've seen all of the American stuff, go to the Japanese because there is so much from Takara Studios before and after.
In the Netflix series, there's a Netflix documentary, The Toys That Made Us, and they detail a lot of the Transformer toys and how they designed some of them, and it's just insane.
Speaking of Netflix, I kept this just in case I needed it for something, and I'll let this be the something. Being the sucker big kid that I am, one of the Transformers trends I love is the crossover. So on a shelf that you can't see, I have the X-Men plane crossover, the DeLorean from Back to the Future crossover, and down there in the bottom somewhere is the Top Gun F-14 crossover. And then they went and released a crossover of Surfer Boy Pizza from Stranger Things. And it's in awesome. A box. It's in a pizza box.
Oh my god!
With, like handwritten order stuff. Yeah. And the Transformer is wrapped in deli paper. When there's grease printed. And I've never opened the deli paper yet because I haven't figured out how to open it and keep it where I could show it to people. But I'm an opener. I don't keep it in the box. But I haven't figured out how to open that one in a way that I could deal with. But yeah, it transforms into the Surfer Boy pizza truck.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
And yeah, it's probably just a repaint of an Ironhide, but at least
it's
creative.
That is brilliant.
I'm a sucker for the trend, the crossovers. They get me every time. I pre-order them.
My husband, when they released the what was it, the Optimus Prime that was like $400 a few years back. My husband ordered one, and
was that like the Ultimate Optimus one?
Yeah.
I managed to get the Comic-Con version of that with the big decorative box that slides out, and there are no seals. It's all magnetic closures and folding things, so that you're intended to take it out and show it to people and play with it and put it on a shelf, and then have a box you can actually get it back into. There's so many that they've managed to come out with. Some of them I never got, and they're out of control. The Unicron, which I would have loved to have had, is now like $3,000. You can't even find it from anybody.
Of course.
It made the $500 crowdfunding thing look like nothing. Which Johnny and I did a whole discussion on crowdfunding from multi-million-dollar corporations back on one of the shows some time ago. So anybody that wants to hear all about that from the point of view of a couple of guys that have been around a minute and don't understand why that should have to ever happen. We did that discussion, including how the Star Wars franchise completely missed the boat on the Rancor and didn't get it funded because they were dumb enough to start funding it before it showed up on TV again. Everyone would have paid to fund a Rancor if they just waited until the Book of Boba Fett.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, that's, it's a big, I mean, I don't know how much money they make on people that are over 30, but they should release that information. I would be fascinated.
Jason X says there's a target price listing for 3 more crossover figures with code names.
Ooh.
Well, I gotta know those code names. That might tell us what they are. We could do a whole show on that. Let's guess the code names.
And I agree with Jason X0659's comment that Frank Welker voiced 90% of our childhood. I that's not a lie. I mean,
Yep.
100%. Like, if you don't hear his voice in some of your dreams, you did not watch enough cartoons and we're not keeping up. And can we even be friends? I mean, yes, but that's beside the point. There's a lot. He did a lot. He was very prolific of a voice actor.
The RoboSend products have been mentioned in the comments, and I don't know if you guys have seen those, but oh my goodness, they're like I think there's a light version of one of them that's now maybe only 400, but they're usually I think 700 to 900, and they're voice command interactive toys that transform, and they kind of do it properly. Like if you look at frames of the animation from this original series and the way they transform those robots, they're pretty loyal to, like, if you were to slow down and see like how did Grimlock unfold and flip over to become a robot, the robot that does it in that toy line kind of follows that same pattern of what should move when and where.
It takes a genius to design these toys the way they are, and like I don't know how the Japanese people do it. It's just like they look at something and they can figure out right away. I'm still trying to transform this thing back.
The designers are some of the most, to me, Takara's designers have been for the longest time some of the most impressive minds in toys, if not just engineering. And I don't know, maybe we could have figured that out in the 80s in America, but boy, it sure was fortunate that they teamed up with somebody like that could teach them how to do that cool stuff. And I like them complicated. One of my favorite things is they're intellectually stimulating. I hate it when I walk through the store and it says only 4 steps. And I'm like, 4 steps.
Honestly, I think that, I agree with you. Lucas, I agree with you. Like it's as we get older, or the cerebral kids, we wanted a toy that was way more interactive.
Yeah.
So the Transformer toy was something that could do that. And as you know plenty about toy history. So this was a toy driven, animation and comic book series. But when it comes right down to it, it was more than just toys to us. It was more than just a cartoon. It became part of our media history as children. And those toys kind of shaped our creativity and our desire to do more and push more. When they started out in 1977, they had a robot that turned into a sports car, Cosmo Putosh. But they had a 1975, they had Robot Man, the first ever robot to vehicle toy. And both of those were in Japan. But, they didn't transform. Like you had to disassemble them and reassemble the whole thing. So they didn't count in the history of the Transformers as much because, you had all these pieces. And as a little kid, as, cerebral or as adults or, we can keep a hold of the pieces, but you're real little, the likelihood that kid's going to lose an arm and then the toy is forever in the hole somewhere buried and they have no idea where it is anymore. They don't care. It's missing an arm. Some kids, not all kids. I remember playing with my She-Ra doll till she had like no cape and no arm and, her hair was discolored, but she still had one arm. But, the disassembling and the reassembling.
You had weird She-Ra? Is that what they call that? Weird She-Ra, since it's weird Barbie now, thanks to the
Right. So like those were the take apart ones and the reassemble ones. Those were kind of amazing though. So if anybody has access to those should be, monumentally worth something on the internet because they were the ancestor of the Transformers, and also were you one of the kids, Lucas, that when you got the Transformer toy to play with, you realized that space in their chest was for something? Or was I the only kid? Because I didn't know about that before, but I asked an adult, because I was like, does something go in there? And they were like, no, if it was supposed to have something, it would have come with something. And now an adult, I'm like,
that answer is someone entirely ignorant of regulation, politics, and safety rules. So I always assumed that the toy, I think early on I read the bottom of my Transformers and realized that there were other words that weren't Hasbro. There was Takara, and there were sometimes different copyrights. And so I had an awareness as a kid, like, obviously this is something that's been imported and gotten to me. I didn't understand what marketing and remarketing was, but it always struck me that there has to be something more to this in its original iteration, because there, Optimus Prime's chest / cab opens up to reveal 2 seats. What goes in these seats? And then it was even like, okay, maybe they're just there for authenticity, but where's the steering wheel? And then the other side of the coin was when you would actually get like the open top vehicles, and they had a seat, but it had like 2 little pegs to hold whatever went in there in place. And then you really knew like something's missing. And what's missing is something that A, Hasbro doesn't want to pay to produce, B, is too small to meet the age requirement they want to market the toy. So just like an NC-17 cutting down to be an R movie, they cut the tiny figures so they could have like whatever it was, ages 3 and up or whatever. Because, we regulated that, which could arguably be also referred to as our culture didn't raise kids not to stick things in their mouth early enough. Nope. And so we had to have a rule about it.
Right. You guys did have the constant song of don't stick it in your mouth playing, where it warned you not to put foreign objects in your mouth. Right.
Like, I always had to assume that Japanese kids just were inherently raised differently at a lower age. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So their toys could have cool little stuff and no one worried about it.
Right. Right. Okay. I have one more thing to say about the toys when it comes to that. So parents, this is something that I, you don't pay attention to some of it when it's not your era. So there was the mail away. You remember the mail away for the G.I. Joes and stuff. They wanted to have other toys that were not available on shelves. You could mail away for it back in the day, in the way back machine. Okay. So I did not know that children and mothers sent letters to Hasbro when they were killing off Optimus Prime. They sent letters, so many letters that they made Hasbro return Optimus Prime due to a phenomenal writing campaign from children and mothers. It was really, wow. They made Optimus Prime toy available again through the mail order, through special mail order campaign, because these people were like, no, you don't understand. My kid is freaking out. You killed their hero, their robot hero. You can't do that. So, in 1987, Optimus Prime came back, returning in the rebirth, and David Wise was part of that. And it was so big. Optimus was so big that when that movie came out and we killed so many of those, and the reasoning, by the way, they were doing that is, again, the toys, because they had only licensed so many toys from Takara, and they were like, okay, so we're done with these. We're going to put in some new guys.
Right.
But then people were like, no, you can't take Optimus from us. And that campaign just started a new wave of like the desire for these toys more than they ever thought. In fact, the last time that they got the toys was in 1989. They actually licensed the rest. They purchased the rest of all of the toys that Takara had. They're like, no, we need the rest of them now. All of them, doesn't matter what they look like. Everything you've made, we want them now. And then, the rebranding and the recoloring, Takara was like all in. They're like, thank you.
Well, I don't think they were aware of how much syndication would affect their need to market differently. Mm-hmm. I don't think they understood that just because in your adult view, you've released these episodes, you've released this toy series, now you've done a thing in the movie to basically slaughter half of that cast in the opening scene. And now you've got new toys and you're going to sell those toys. But also we're going back home after school and we're still seeing reruns for the 18th time of the same other characters. And so everybody still might enter the fandom at a different point and then go to the store looking for that and not find it. And then where's the balance between, can you sell enough to make it worth it? So they really had to learn a lot, and they also learned a lot about drama. They came at it with a story to sell some toys, and I don't think they realized, oh, wait a minute, we made people care. We probably need to deal with that, and they're mad at us, so we'll figure it out. And that was cool. It's nice that kind of worked that way. And then of course they did it with G.I. Joe immediately, and in their movie they kill off Duke. They got away with it a little bit better in that one. Well, they tried to kill off Duke, and they changed the ending because they knew the blowback would be like Optimus Prime. But then they faded away from him mattering that much anyhow. So they kind of got both. They got what they wanted. They made him less important, released new toys.
Jason X says the backlash of Optimus Prime's death also made Hasbro change Duke's death in G.I. Joe, the movie. Right. Yeah. And it's funny because even in Beast Wars, which oddly enough, they also had Beasties at the same time, which was the same show, but I think one was marketed more towards the Canadian viewers, and then one for American. I can't remember which one was which, but anyway, in Beast Wars, the whole Optimus Primal dying and then coming back even stronger and upgraded, and it just kept going on. That became like almost a trope for a while there. It's like, oh, no, you're not dead. You're going to come back and be stronger and more weapons and new paint scheme.
Right.
Just to sell toys, right?
Well, and now they're going all in. I was trying to find it. I know there's a dual pack of figures. I'm over here on Hasbro Pulse, just scrolling around trying to figure it out. With a couple of the Autobots with their damage from their on ship slaughter in the opening sequence of the '86 film,
right?
And you can buy a kit or a package of the two characters in that are busted up and damaged. And
oh, that's cool.
I think they have like the blacked out eyes maybe or whatever. And I'm trying to see where that is. I don't see it right now. So
yeah. So the scene you're talking about, we're talking about Starscream a second ago. You're talking about the scene where everybody's dead and the machine has got to, reanimate them. So it took in the show, it took an explosion from the wow, I forgot the word for volcano. The volcano they were basically jammed into for them to get shaken loose, and the first ones up are the Decepticons. Okay,
well, this is from the movie. That sequence, there's some. I think they've done some releases of those, but this was in the movie when they flipped the toy line and they kill off all these main characters. Mm-hmm. And I think it might let me show this window of me shopping. There you go. Yeah, it might let you add that into the.
Oh, there we are.
To the lineup. So they did this recently, which is apparently not catching on and been marked down. But you could buy them with the damage from the movie slaughter, and this is something they've done with the toys recently. They give these little spark special effects that you can put, like you can put that one in the chest of Ironhide, so it's the blast of him getting shot at, and it's just a really cool little addition to the line. That if you're really into it, you can recreate that scene from the '86 movie, and it's really neat that they're doing this stuff now. I kind of love that. I'm glad they have these.
That is really cool.
They didn't understand any of that back then. They had no idea how much money they could make. But also, to be fair, we weren't indoctrinated for our whole lives and then given disposable income as adults.
And I love how our viewers are chiming in the chat. They know who you're talking, what you're talking about there, Luke.
And I can't track half of that because they put it in different lines. Like the Buzzworthy Bumblebee label on that is weird to me. I would expect it to be part of the '86 movie. It's almost impossible to track their lines, their series that they do now, and it's a lot of remarket, repaint, etc.
And Jason X says they're going to release Ratchet and Brawn next.
Nice. I might actually have to start getting those so I could do what I did. It's a little off camera here, but I have a recreation on the top of that glass case in the corner of the poster for the Transformers '86 movie. It's using all modern figures because you can pose them in the ways, because it was very Star Wars. We'll just admit it. it was a very Star Wars movie poster. It was transferring. You've got RC kind of leaning, and it's an homage to a Star Wars poster. But
Oh, yeah.
to pose them that way, you got to use the modern stuff. And I also don't own everything that they had in the original.
We're still trying to collect our Ghostbusters stuff from when we were children here.
A lot of these I'm perfectly willing to buy re-releases, and in some things I'm glad I have the originals. And actually, I love doing the dual thing, like the thing I pointed to earlier. And a lot of these, they've even realized people will buy them again. And right now on Pulse, you can get Fortress Maximus, the enormous guy in the corner. That's now back on the store, and you can pre-order it again. It's $199. So you got to spend on these giants. But the Metroplex, I'm so bad about the pointy thing with the camera, but the Metroplex that they did for Comic-Con a few years ago was the first real big one I got as a kid. Oh. And I still remember crawling commando style past my dad, who had conked out on the couch, and crawling across the floor at 4 or 5 a.m. just to peek at the Christmas tree. And my perspective when I first saw this, it's in the box and it's the robot standing in a clear panel. So it was a very impressive box. And my perspective as a crawling young person was like something along these lines. It was enormous to my perspective because I had crawled through the floor. And he came with accessories like the little tank slammer.
Oh, nice.
And you could make all of his guns into, I forgot this guy's name. Somebody in the comments will definitely correct me. But you can make his guns into this dude.
Cool.
And then they re-release all of that. After they did the big guy behind me, they decided, oh, hey, people would buy re-releases of that. So they did the modern version of the guy that's made out of all of his guns.
Oh, neat.
And the vehicle that he came with, which was just a little black car that flipped 2 ways and transformed into a robot. They re-released that. So you have classic and new. But everybody always wished that Slammer transformed into something. Slammer was just this little tank with I don't know if I ever figured out the purpose of his weird deployable phallus thing. But they released Slammer as a transformable tank robot.
Oh, that's cool.
So I went and bought all of the reasonable facsimiles in a modern sense of all the ones that I had as a kid. Total sucker.
Hey, my husband would be the same way. Like he, whenever we go to Toys R Us, and I'm sorry for those of you who are living without Toys R Us in your state right now.
You're coming back slowly.
Come up to Canada and buy all your toys here. But yeah, whenever we go to, we'll raid Walmart shelves for toys constantly, but Toys R Us is usually where we get like our pride and joy toys.
That makes sense. What is your most prized Transformer item? Doesn't even have to be a toy.
I think that would be our Optimus Prime.
The Ultimate Optimus?
Yeah.
That makes sense. And do you have...
Oh, yeah. Oh no! This little guy is my first
okay.
ever. I found him for the movie.
Okay. Oh, no, I see. Yeah.
You recognize that gentleman.
It looks uncomplicated, but not dumbly uncomplicated.
Right. That's my first and only. To be honest with you, I've been a fan since I was a kid, but any toys that I had or had access to were long since gone. And just now refurbishing my desire to purchase toys, to be honest, now that my kids are adults and I'm apparently reverting back to childhood.
I lost my original Decepticon Constructicon toys to being allowed to play with them in the sandbox because it sort of makes logical sense. But they would get left outside and then rain and rust and then like gritty sand in the transforming process. And I know that they didn't never make it out of the sandbox. I know they were around, but I have no idea what happened to them in the long run, which is why when they released that Comic-Con version of the big giant open box version of Devastator, I jumped right on it. Mm-hmm. And then they did the little Autobot iteration where what if they were Autobots instead? And I couldn't resist that. I think maybe my coolest favorite Transformer item isn't a Transformer at all.
Well, okay. Oh,
It's a Decepticon Nike.
cool.
Oh, that's cool.
The Calvin Johnson, the former Lions player, CJ85 series Nike. His nickname, I learned all this because I'm not a football guy, but I learned all this when this shoe came out. His nickname is Megatron as a player, or was. And his motto was Megatron's motto of show no mercy, which is inside the flap on the Velcro. It was just such a cool random release that when it came out, it hit a blog, some nerd blog, and I immediately went to a coworker. The company I work for had Nike as a client. And I asked her, who do you know? I have to have Decepticon Nikes. So I kept them, didn't wear them. They did send them to me. It was really cool. Put it on a shelf, never wore it, used it as a conversation piece in any given office. And then one day I got curious and went on eBay to see if they were worth anything. And it turned out they kind of weren't, which meant I could buy a wearable pair in my size. For
Yeah.
so now I have a pair in the closet to wear and a pair that I don't take anywhere.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's the most fun, interesting Transformers item I've ever come in contact with. It's not a Transformer at all.
So, Lucas, I have a question. Do you have any mini bots?
Like the itty bitty ones?
Yeah, because like I just sent Willow a picture. So the old mini bots used to actually include motorized mini Transformers called mini spies. Like the toy.
Which one mini bot? I don't remember what mini bot actually is. I'm going to look that up real quick because
the auto minis, and they were 4 different, and they came in 3 different colors. And then they had a rub symbol at one point later on where you could you didn't know if you got an Autobot or a Decepticon. But
they did that thing for a while. That was cool.
Yeah, but the beginning mini bots, they did a tiny motorized Transformer inside the package with it. So I was just curious if anybody has come in contact with that, because I sent her a picture of it, but I've never seen one that came with a motorized. There it is. I've never seen one of these. Like in all the times when I've tried to find like other Transformers for my kids, even.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. They would stick the extra bubble on the package with the real goofy little low quality figure. Yeah. That happened after I had most of the. So the complication is the mini bot is also what they would refer to that main figure, because it is only like 1.5 inches long. Like
right.
It's a very small bot. I remember when they did this, but I remember not caring. It was like right after I had like gotten all of the ones that I would want to get. And then the ones I already had started showing up with this. And in retrospect, obviously they had a stock of these they want to get rid of. So they added something to the package to be able to make it more appealing. But no, I never got any of the tiny itty bitty one like that. I did get some of the ones that had they called them decoys, and they were basically eraser material. Though I knew kids that would use them as erasers, and it made me cringe. Because like, no, that's a collectible. Don't do that. But you would get either a purple or red rubbery minifigure of a Transformer, and it was probably yay big, 1.25 inches maybe.
I feel like I remember those.
Yeah, and like I had a lot of them, and I only have like a couple of them kicking around now. I don't know where they all went. They definitely didn't become erasers. They were close to the scale of muscle men, which I always thought was fun. So you have your friend with all these muscle men, you just bring a couple of Decepticons to the party. Like,
Did either of you or anybody in the comments ever see live the Commodore 64 video game?
Not live.
No. I mean, people are doing stuff like that now. Like with the old video games, they're starting to play old ones if they can get them running.
Mm-hmm.
My father-in-law has a Commodore 64. I'm wondering if he has that game.
Oh, Willow, you better check that out. That would be some viewing hours right there.
There you go. That is a rabbit hole worth diving into.
Right. Okay. And another question. Do you know, just a little piece of trivia, because I didn't know a lot of this myself. Do either of you know who named the Transformers?
I don't have this committed to memory. I've seen it in multiple documentaries mentioned, and just it went
So it was actually the son of the company chairman. His name was J. Pikal. And he's the one that named dubbed them Transformers. And Griffin Pikal was actually the one supposedly who proposed combining Diaclone and Microchange toys into one style of toy line. So if you want to thank, somebody for some of the little, starting points of Transformers, the Pikals apparently were very involved in this.
Yeah, Griffin Bacall was the adapter of the two toy lines. And then, Jay, his kid. That's neat. I think I'd heard that and then forgotten it again. But the Transformers Wiki has plenty of that info. One place to get lost.
Oh, you know what? It's when I try to dive in, I will say that I'm going to mention one very important person real quick before I forget. I always try to remember that their music is a huge part of any show. And the composer, Anne Bryant, is responsible for the catchy tune, which is in the beginning of Transformers. And we thank you. And anyone who knows her, because music is huge when it comes to, we will
selling
never
the product.
So thank you, Anne Bryant's family and her, if she's still kicking around. We thank you very much, because that is in every head that has ever seen any Transformers, and it will forever be a tune that we consider with a positive attitude,
Well, and every little piece of that, with this series, when we were little, we took for granted this entertainment, and then for the rest of your life, there would be those little things like you just did the music riff, but the Transformer sound, subject of much debate when Michael Bay didn't use a lot of it.
You want to talk about the angry geeks.
Excuse me, Mr. Bay, and the intervening logo flip between scenes that would have that music riff. It also had that ping sound that we kind of all just indoctrinated to understand was a sound of transition. And then, any little goofy clunk or clack, and then it would proceed. You would start to notice that through your whole life. And the most recent sound iteration like that is the classic sci-fi door that you hear in the StarCraft game.
Oh, I can hear it in my head when you said that. Yep.
And I'm watching For All Mankind right now, which is phenomenal, totally different show. Totally separate subject. We could spend 3 hours on itself. The doors in their fancy space future stuff in their timeline make that same stock sound as part of the collection of sound. And I'm like, I've known that sound my whole life.
Right?
And it's just interesting, these tiny little tidbits that somebody just did as part of their job in 1984 or wherever they first occur. And then they become like these just instinctive wiring to who we are and what we think about.
The sound of the $6 Million Man will always be one of those sounds too for me. It's like the Transformers transforming noise, the $6 Million Man, the doors of Star Trek. The lasers from Star Wars.
The Wilhelm scream.
Absolutely. That one is to the point that if you don't hear it, sometimes you're offended. Like if anybody falls or flies off of something and you don't hear it, it's just unacceptable.
Did you even scream?
Right.
But yeah, no, I used to mimic all of that growing up, and like whenever me and my friends were in Mortal Kombat fighting moves, just like I throw in the odd weird sound effects just to throw them off.
Yep.
Yep.
Hit from Knight Rider, yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, that sound forever. Knight Rider. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, in my dreams, man. In my dreams.
What I love is about doing the show is how much people thought I was a weird kid growing up, and then I'm talking to you guys, and I was like, I'm not alone.
Our tribe finally. Oh.
And for anybody trying to catch up on what in the world all of this is that's new to it, YouTube is a great resource. Like I'm just looking right now, there are so many episodes and clips and things in the Transformers official account on YouTube. Like it's surprising how well we've come out of the dead zone. Like when YouTube really hit its stride, major entertainment companies still didn't get it. They weren't good at YouTubeifying their fortunes, so to speak. And now it's like there's a lot of content. They've understood that people want to consume it in that space. So if you're a old or new Transformers fan, there's plenty running around to check into. And I think I'm trying to find that always ongoing marathon
from Hasbro.
Sure where it goes.
I do have one more thing to say about this. So you cannot mention Transformers, the animated series, without mentioning Bob. I'm going to murder his last name probably. Bob Budiansky? Budiansky. Booty. Mr. Bob, okay? Sir, this gentleman, literally, okay, they put it in his hands. Like, this is the primary person that created the names, the attitude, for these characters. Like, he had the toy, you know, and they were like, here, make characters. And he was like, okay. And he just cranked them out. Thanksgiving, I think they said, like the first, you know, when they had it, he was over Thanksgiving weekend. He's like, bah, 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 you know, and then the next season came out and they handed him more toys. And he's like, yep. So if you don't know who Bob Budiansky is, you don't know Transformers, because he is the reason why we have such well flushed out characters. And one person to be responsible for all that. Again, you know, we've got the voice of them. We've got the composer, but you know, you take production and everything aside, and the creatives, the ones behind it are people like Bob that, you know, you're never going to forget Starscream. You're never going to forget. Oh, wait, hold on. There is one person. I forgot. There is one person that is responsible for a different character besides Bob. I forgot about this. If somebody can remember in the comments, maybe there's one person, and I can't find it in my notes. It's disappeared. There's one person that's responsible. I think, I don't know if it's Optimus Prime, but like, there's one character that's not from Bob, and they just kept it. They kept that creatives. So if you can remember somebody, it's in here somewhere in my notes. I'll probably put it on the message at the end of the video. So, but yeah. So most of it's Bob. Most of the characters that we grew to love as children that just became embodied from a toy that was already created far before he ever heard of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And I found the thing. It's the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, not to be confused with the official Transformers YouTube channel. There's two different ones. And on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, you can watch the complete American Generation 1 line of episodes in sequence from a playlist. You can just put it on and play it for whatever 98 episodes at 24, 22 minutes ends up being, days straight.
And Jason X says the name that you're looking for, Aubrey, is Simon Furman.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's so responsible for a different character. It's so important to mention that the people that really, you know, started this from the beginning.
One of the writers, actually, I think it was Ryan Permisson that interviewed him. Buzz Dixon actually wrote the majority of our childhood back in the 80s, and he's worked on Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem and the Holograms. And you know, the guy, I love seeing his posts on Facebook, but he's a very controversial guy right now, but you know, I love him. he doesn't he doesn't take no guff from people, which I love.
Well, and the thing with Furman is that he's kind of the originator of what we consider the mythology in a fully educated bubble of observing the Transformers. There was the iteration of characters that Bob Budiansky did that kind of made it make some sense as a story, but he handed this package over to Furman, who really went in on the lore, created Unicron, really built this bigger thing that became the mythology. And we see one of my favorite things about the Transformers is that they stick, and I really hope no one ever wrecks this, the story in a very mythological way. Johnny was talking earlier about he was researching a lot of mythology stuff. One of my favorite things about Transformers is it always sticks to certain events, that it almost never matters what kind of story is being told, what era, what tech, what group of characters. There is always a constant stream of evil leader with betraying sidekick, hero that is put in jeopardy and probably taken away from us for a period of time, replaced by a stand-in that doesn't quite think they have it. The imposter syndrome is high. Then the big hero comes back and we get two heroes, and then inevitably the main villain gets destroyed or converted into the new, more evil version of main villain. And it's just always a cycle that you see in the Transformers story. And that's something I really like. And I've heard some fans complain, oh, they're just doing the same thing again. Megatron and stupid Galvatron. It's like, I like this constant. Kind of the same way I liked the way those new Star Trek movies made it so that someone has to die. It doesn't have to be Spock. It could be Kirk this time. But this mythology requires the hero's sacrifice. And I think that I love that when it's always going to be part of a story, no matter what you do.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, with that, we are at the top of the next hour, and we should probably say our goodbyes. But before we do, we're getting ready for the multiverse fundraiser, and I'm gonna play you why we are doing this.
My name is Mark Weiss, and I'm the president and founder of an organization called Comic Books for Kids. Our complete entire mission is dedicated to providing comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers. I've been passionate about comic books literally my entire life. I love the industry, I love the mythology of the characters, but I've always also wanted to give back. And it occurred to me that perhaps something could be done that would allow us to create an organization that allowed us to provide comic books to the kids in hospitals and cancer centers. And I asked them, I said, if we were to provide comic books to you, would you like them? Every hospital I called had the same story. Please do this for our kids. My goal at the time, a year ago, was to deliver 1,000 comics in a calendar year. By the way, I had no inventory. To 20 hospitals, which, by the way, I hadn't contacted, and bring on 2 publishers. That was my 2017 goal. As we wrapped up 2017, we shipped out over 8,000 comics last year to over 100 children's hospitals in almost every state in the country, and almost every publisher that is here today is working with us. Our community tab on our website shows stories from nurses, from children, from mothers of students, patients, children who have had their lives touched by the simple, small act of kindness of just giving them a comic book. The stories are incredible. You can't make this up. And if anyone had ever told me that we would be influencing people's lives by just these small acts of kindness, I don't think I would have ever recognized the impact. I feel very humbled and very flattered that we've been able to touch so many people's and children's lives. And I never thought the responsiveness would be what we are seeing. It's about letting kids be kids again. And it's about bringing comic books back to the kids.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Lucas, for joining us today. Where can we find you on social media, if you don't mind us?
I'm around on various networks under the Power Mac Jedi handle there. That's on the screen. But the most public way for people to randomly encounter me would be Instagram. That's the one that I tend to be pretty reliable on. I love that society has come full circle back to cave paintings, and now they're just on the internet in the form of Instagram photographs.
I agree.
So that is one of the places that you may find me. I still intermittently do a similar show like this format, but a very adult approach to discussing social and political topics called Brewing Controversy. We are once in a while on no particular schedule because we're both very busy, my co-host and I. But when we feel like griping about the headlines, we'll grab some beers, we review craft beer, and we talk about what's going on in the world. And we've had Willow join us a few times on that show.
I've been meaning to join you recently because of our political landscape here is makes me want to drink.
Well, good. Be sure that we let you know the next time we're doing that. And then occasionally I'll show up here once in a while. I may not shave, but I can be here on a Saturday morning if I really have to.
Well, we love having you, Lucas.
I really appreciate being involved. Thank you.
Aubrey, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Miss Kind Red Ivy on Instagram. That's my primary focus. A little bit on Facebook here and there. But I would like to say thank you to Jason. I won't give you $5, but I'll say hi to you and thank you very much for the info. But you can send us $5 on Patreon and any other way you can. We can also use some cereal occasionally. Get some Willow, some American cereal. Also, I'd like to say hello to a mother and child before we get off of the air here, because this is primarily about cartoons and kids' cartoons. And we have a kid watching this morning again, so I like to say hi to them when I can. Hi, Liam and his mom, Marissa, two fans of Transformers. New generation, we appreciate that. One of the most important things you can remember about this is there's more than meets the eye. Don't forget to try and watch more Transformers. And I heard there's some interesting things upcoming too. So I'm going to be watching more myself.
And if you guys enjoyed our show and want us to continue doing what we do, please become a member and a Patreon donator. Patreon.com/serialboxpodcast. Some of us need to upgrade our equipment. Others may need new lighting so that Johnny doesn't complain how dark we look in the mornings.
Or how good it sounds.
All right. And if you didn't enjoy the show, but you still want us to see what we're all about, please tune in to our other shows. Tomorrow night is Cryptic Crunch, and I have my old co-host back, Keisha. So make sure that you guys tune in for that. We're talking about aliens and what's been going on in Miami and what's been going on in Brazil as of late with these aliens just all of a sudden popping up. So tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. So
I am so glad to see so much support coming in through Patreon and all the other drives for this show and this whole stable of shows. It makes me really happy to see you guys getting all of that traction and all the loyal fandom. A world without back of the cereal box would indeed be shocking.
we've actually made it to number 4. We're one of the top 5 podcasts.
Yes, thank you so much for making us number 4, guys. We really appreciate you. We need you. We need your viewing hours, and we appreciate you and our guests. Nice to meet you, Lucas.
You too. Thank you.
And you guys can help make us number 1, but we're going way over time, so we're gonna have to say goodbye. Unfortunately, have a good night. Have a good day.